Hello, welcome to the presentation of the RISC-KIT guide. My name is Nico Stelljes. I come from the Ecologic Institute in Berlin. This presentation has been done also with my colleagues Karin, Beese and Katriona, McGlade. I would like to present you the guide we have been developed in RISC-KIT. It's a web-based guide to facilitate learning and exchange about disaster risk and reduction measures. The agenda of the presentation is that we would like to introduce very briefly to RISC-KIT and show how this guide fits within the RISC-KIT approach. Then I would like to talk about the RISC-KIT End User Day, where we try to get the first idea of the guide rolling, and of course at the third point I would like to present the structure of the guide. So, as you might have heard already, the RISC-KIT project has several tools developed in a toolbox. So, at the first tool we have the storm impact database, we have the coastal risk assessment framework, the graph, we have the hotspot tool, and we have our web-based management guide and the multi-criteria analysis tool, the MCA. And of course, I would like to focus on the web-based management guide. So the task of this guide is to highlight key principles in design and implementation of DRR, so disaster risk reduction plans and measures. It should provide practical illustrations and examples of prevention, protection, mitigation and preparedness measures. And it should provide plans and tools to aid the structural development of DRR plans. The target audience is defined as coastal managers, policymakers and technical and scientific experts. So basically anybody who is working in coastal areas or has a stake in these aspects. So within RISC-KIT we had what we called an end user day, where we invited end users from our different case studies to gather around in Brussels and talk about the project. And that was when we started off developing the web guide. So we presented existing guides and discussed 5 different existing web guides. And basically what you can see if you look through these existing guides, and there's a lot of different guides out there, that you can distinguish them between 3 different structural components, I would say. So basically you can have a web guide that is a module-based guide, where you can go to the website and have different modules that you can look at. You could have a more interactive guide where you actually might even be able to provide input to it, and you can have a map-based guide that provides information basically on different kind of maps. Of course, it's possible to have a mixture of all of these 3 elements in there, but I hope I can make this more clear in the following slides. So we presented the 5 different guides, and just to get an impression what is already out there, what are the elements in there, how feasible it is to use, and so on. So the first guide that we presented was a guide from the Alliance of Global Water Adaptation. It's called Managing Risk and Uncertainty in Water and Environment. The second was developed by the US Army Corps of Engineers. It's the risk management strategies for coastal communities. And as you can see already in the middle picture here, that is what we call a map-based guide, where you can click on the map and see different things. The third map was the toolbox developed by the project Beese. It's called the Adaptive Marine Policy Toolbox. And here you can see that small step-by-step guide that goes through the different contexts, so it's more module-based guide. The fourth guide that we presented was from UCC, that was called Coast Learning. It's a multimedia training package on integrated coastal zone management, and as you can see already in the title, it's called modules. So they have different modules that you can go through and the fifth one was climate and disaster risk screening tool developed by the World Bank, and that is a very interactive tool where you can we've been asked to give certain information, and then the website gives you results back based on your information. So we presented this in the end user day to the end users and the case studies owner as kind of target group of our web guide, and then they had time to surf through these different websites, and afterwards we would ask them what would be the most and least wanted elements of the web-based guide from your perspective. And we gathered some information. What was most wanted was information on case studies, the step-by-step guide. They would also like to have open source raw data, and a list or description of the measures and plans. And what was least wanted was information about funding and YouTube videos or links to YouTube videos. And we also gave the possibility to write up own comments, what would be really feasible to have on this web guide. And you can see these blue bubbles here. What they said was for example, providing the most relevant DRR measures plans, give a good case study repertoire, easy access to information of interest, illustrations, and maps, and so on. So when we filtered all the information that came out of this end-use day and compare this also to our description of work, our idea for the web-based guide was that less text is more, that pictures, illustrations are very important, that maps can be an attractive element, and of course an appealing layout of the website is wanted. And that was kind of the basic structure that we had for our web guide. So we then tried to get a structure done of the web guide, and what was then became very clearly is that we have kind of 3 pillars that this guide is based on, and of course it's about the measures that are embedded in a coastal element. That's what you can see with the green circles. But of course all these measures are embedded in a governance system and policy management institutions, and of course they are also affected and undertaken by people's and their stories or the perception of coastal stakeholders on the coast, on risk, on measures, and on governance. On all of these 3 elements, they of course interlink with each other. They are independent on each other, and form then a structure that you have to analyze before implementing a DRR measure or plan. And I want to show you now a little bit of the content of the web guide. So the slide before you see the elements, this is the actual first slide of the website, and then you can choose in kind of ways where you want to go. You can either go to the governance, you can go to people stories, or in this case you can click on the coastal element and the measures, and you see a ideal sketch of a European coastline with the most elements that you can imagine here. That we have the sandy beaches, we have wetlands, but you also have cities on the coast, you have coastal infrastructure, you have a heritage site on the coast, and so on. And then you can actually choose these different elements, and from there find measures. In this case, clicked on the sandy beaches and the dunes, and then we can see some general information below that, what we understand by this, but the most important part is that you can see in the middle with a list of different measures, and in this case we pick the nourishment, and this is just only one measure, and in the whole list of the web guide is about 7 measures, and it's again divided by the coastal elements. It's also divided by prevention, protection, mitigation, preparedness measures. It's also divided by hazard, if it's riverine or slow rise flood, if it's flash flood, and so on. So you can basically also search for measures that address urban floods. You can also search for measures that only address protection, and so on. So there's a different ways to find the right measure that you are looking for. Again, looking at the list of the elements, we have seen here the beach nourishment is here in yellow, and on it you get a description of what is understood by a measure, with a photo, short description, and more text describing the measure itself. And you can see in the very bottom a small figure that says example from Bulgaria, and that is actually the link to the people and stories. And here we have a quote from an interview that has been undertaken within RISC-KIT, and saying something about the beach nourishment from his own personal perspective. And these quotes are embedded within the different measures, but of course you can also find them if you go on the first page and go for the people and stories. If you go on the governance section, you will find different layers. You will find the international level, EU level, national level, and in here you find the different countries that are relevant to RISC-KIT, because there are case studies in there, and you have a more descriptive way of what you can find in these on the national level, but also on the case area level. So for Portugal, you can find information on the policy framework, on the public administration, but you also can find a link to the local governance, to the local case study of Ria Formosa. There is the case study in Portugal where it's more described in detail what's the actual local case study area is, very specific also. So this is in principle the structure of the web guide, and of course I would like to encourage you to look on the website and search the website, and of course also provide feedback if you like. The website you can find at closed-management.eu. Of course, you can also find it via the RISC-KIT website itself, and I'd like you to give us feedback if you find anything worthwhile to mention us. Thank you very much.